well. When you have a locker room that you've won championships together, you've pursued championships together, Richard, I'm going to start with you here. When you hear something like what Ohm just said, how do you move forward as a team?
Yeah, you play basketball. You play basketball. You get the money, you play basketball. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. I want to go back. I believe it was Artis Gilmore. And he got the trade deadline used to be on Christmas Day. And I believe he was in Chicago. He was a beloved player. And I think when all of that happened on Christmas Day, the NBA moved it up. They moved it later so that it wouldn't be on that day. Now, I'll say this. I do agree with Steve, and I'm going to be very cautious with my words because I respect him so much. He has been, a mentor to me in certain sense. But I think it is a little cowardice, in my opinion, to say we should move it to the deadline so we don't have to talk to these players or we can get. Yes, there's a portion where I believe also it should be at the deadline, but I also believe that you should have to look these players in their faces. When players have to sign, when they buy a house, when someone just had a baby and you're trading them, don't make it at the All-Star break so you can trade them in secret, right? Or you can trade them without having to have them in the organization or in the arena or in the gym. That's part of it. Do I agree that there should be a little bit more time so players can actually adjust their lives and not have to get on a plane? Yes, we would all like everything to be comfortable and perfect. But at the end of the day, all of us, I've been traded. UD was fortunate enough he wasn't traded. Perk has been traded. I'm not even sure about Chiney's situation. But at the end of the day, for me, it's you win a championship, you move on. I saw Shaq get traded to Miami right after he went to the NBA Finals and won 3 championships with the Lakers, and I saw him get traded. Now, it wasn't at the deadline, but to make this, well, we should, no. If you want to move it to All-Star break, but some of that is so that organizations don't have to look players in their eyes when they do that, so they don't have to do it. We saw Harrison Barnes get traded. He was on the bench, and it said he was traded while he was sitting there. So it was on the ticker on the screen and he didn't even know yet. So this is a part of the game. It's the good with the bad. This part is one of the toughest parts of the industry, but let's not all of a sudden make it so we don't have to have this conversation, because if it was during the trade deadline, that would be a phone call. Hey, I'm just letting you know you got traded, versus him being in the locker room and it being an emotional moment. So for me, they're trying to hide from the emotion the teams and owners are. That's what they're trying to hide from, and having this being done during the All-Star break. Do I see a benefit to it? Yes, but I also see a side of it where they're trying to hide from the parts that are most difficult for the players.
I certainly want to allow you all to talk about this because it's far more important than any of my perspective. But to your point, there's videos circulating of the Miami Heat players, a fan, literally recording them on their phone saying, hey, this is the trade. Jimmy Butler's out. This is who's coming in. And that is how some of those players found out.
And it's embarrassing, but you can't hide from it, especially with social media, right? I've been traded twice at the trade deadline. One, when I was traded from the Celtics, I went to Boston as an 18-year-old young man, spent 8.5 years there. We were actually on the road. We actually had flew the night before, went into Denver. We played Boo-Ray all night. Guys knew I was getting traded, right, because they had a meeting with Ray and KG and Paul and Danny Ainge and Doc, and only 2 people that stood up for me in the meeting was KG and Rondo, right? But we played cards throughout that time of playing cards throughout late that night. They knew I was getting traded. Nobody told me a word. I woke up the next morning and saw it on ESPN, right, that I was traded. And I'm like, hold on, then my phone gets to ringing. And it's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing because you feel like being traded is the worst thing in the world till you actually get to your next destination. And when you have great organizations that do right by you, Danny Ainge traded me to Oklahoma City knowing that I was going to get paid. Everybody's not fortunate to do that, right? I went there with coming off an ACL injury, a strained MCL, and Sam Presti gave me $36 million, and I hadn't stepped foot on the floor. Yeah. But everybody don't go through that. But it is a real thing, and we come on here and we talk about it and we do our job. But people have to relocate.
Yeah. Yes.
Families got to and it's
You're
not.
Separated
you
from
don't
your
have 2 weeks.
times.
You don't have 2 weeks. You may have kids that are in school. No, it's at the drop of a dime. I know people go be like, "Oh, this part of it." Nah, people are still human.
Human side of it.
Yeah.
Human side of it, and it's something that I go by, whether it's basketball or in life. Look me in my eyes and say it to my face, and whether I like it or not, I'll always respect it. And I think that's where it just comes down to the respect. We fought for these coaches. We've shed blood. We've cried together. We won together. As a man, just look me in my eye and tell me what it is. And I'll always respect you for that.
You know what's interesting? We all know the moment we stop playing high school ball. Some people go to college, Perk, you didn't, right? But the first lesson you learn when you become a pro, it's a business. Mm-hmm. We understand all sides of the business. I do think, as someone who's watched not only the NBA, but also the WNBA, have trades, have free agency, what's fascinating is the fact that this was different. Like, there was a point the last, let's say 10 or 15 years, where we talk about player empowerment, where players, in some ways, their brands are bigger than the teams they're on. No better case than LeBron James, right? No matter where he goes. I think this shifted things. Luka Doncic being unaware, going to Los Angeles, while that might be better in the long term, the fact that you know your power on the floor, but in some ways it was denied at the highest of levels, you can see it affected KD. That's why we heard about the locker room being potentially unstable moving forward. I think this situation was different, and it's not different in the bad. I always feel like you want to go in the middle, right? Players being empowered, now we have GMs making power moves, finding that equilibrium and that balance. But all players know that it is a business, and at the end of the day, we have a job to do. But I do respect those who say it to your face first, who handle the situation honestly.
Janae.
You can handle everything.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, to Janae's point, we've seen it. Look, we're all broadcast journalists now. We've seen it in the broadcast journal. No, but I'm being serious. We've seen this in our own industry. Outside of playing basketball, we've seen people in the broadcast industry get let go, get moved to other jobs. This is a part of it. And so there is a human side of it, but we also have to understand the other side of the human. Are we looking for sympathy for players that, and this is not, I'm one of those guys, but that made millions of dollars, and it's like, oh, you got to relocate and you're making 15 million or 30 million or 40 million. Yes, there's a part of that, but the other side, to UD's point, there's a human side of it, and that's the human side of it that I think we have to just process. This is just a business.
I don't think pro athletes are looking for sympathy. I think this trade deadline showed a lack of security that players thought we had for the first time in a long time.
And there's like 9 players with security, Chiney. There's like 9 players
but people thought Luka was one of those players. I think that was the point. People thought Luka was one of those.
But we all sat up here and understood why Luka wasn't one of them.
No, because Nico,
you can't say that in Dallas.
Not that I didn't have.
No, you can't say that in Dallas, but
listen, now that I didn't have a moment to let this whole trade digest, this might be one of the dumbest trades in the NBA.
Here we go.
When you look down the line later on, trading Luka Doncic. But we'll get into that another day.
I'm surprised you said
Charles Barkley got traded, then won an MVP a few seasons later.
Listen, here's the thing.
Charles Barkley got traded because of his habits.
Hold on. This is what I want to tell you.
Thank you, Richard.
When you talk about, let me give a shout out to Danny Ainge, because Danny Ainge, since the time I stepped foot with the Celtics organization, every single time he went, whether it was overseas or college games, you know what he used to say? Perk, I'm on my way, I'm about to hit the road. I'm going to find somebody that's better than you. And if I can't find somebody that's better than you, it's nothing personal. And told me that since day one.
When you look at the list of players who you think are untouchable in the NBA, Luka was kind of on that, which is why so many people were surprised. I think we can all agree on 2. Steph Curry?
Yes.
Yeah.
And LeBron James.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we get to see those 2 legends face off tonight.
Oh, they
coming up here on NBA Today, our trade deadline special. After all the moves that both of their teams have made, we still need to savor every time we see these 2 go head-to-head. We examine that game after this.
I'm on fire. The CDA on the ESPN.